Hello everyone, it's Tina. Welcome back to my channel. So I feel like today's video is a bit of cliched at first sight, but when you actually try to understand and absorb what I'm going to say, you will find that the tips will be very beneficial, especially when you're still struggling in high school and college. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So the topic of today's video is about habits employed by highly efficient people. And this comes from my personal experience and also my observation of the brilliant people I've met in life. Because let's admit it, not many of us can just breathe through life with minimal effort and end up being successful, right? We struggle, we err, and then we learn. But then with the help of these habits, perhaps you'll find yourself in a better position to improve. So let's see what they are. I will actually rank these habits in a descending order of importance. So the first one is the most important, which is to have regular but shorter study periods. I know a lot of us are like deadline fighters, right? Our efficiency and productivity level peaks the night before the exam. But then that is not very conducive to good performances in the high-stake examinations. What we really have to do is to have shorter studying periods, but then you have to space them out at regular time slots. So what do I mean? For example, instead of studying for 5 hours straight before the exam, try to have, say, 5 20-minute studying period 2 weeks ahead. So that way, you're trying to space out or to arrange your studying in a more systematic way, and you're trying to study a bit every day. And the reason being, sometimes some knowledge takes time for us to digest, understand, and reflect. I'm not sure if you have experienced this before, but for me, when I write an important essay, right, the second day when I look at it, I will always feel that, oh, this part is inappropriate. I would like to do some revision. So the same applies to studying. Over time, your understanding of the subject matter will deepen, and that will be crucial to your performance in the exam. So definitely try to study in advance and try to give yourself a bit more time to grasp what the subject is about. Even though you feel some subjects are quite easy to understand, right? It's all about memorization. Yet still, if you give yourself a bit more time to let the knowledge filter through, then I'm sure your understanding will be much better and solid. Another benefit of having shorter studying periods is that you will never get tired or bored. As the time passes, our concentration level and our energy will drop. So maybe you're studying for 5 hours, but the actual effect is just the same as studying for 1 hour at your peak energy level. So I don't really recommend that we study for a very long time because in the end, it will be ineffective. Tip number 2 is to plan when you're going to study and try to study at the same time. Studying is a long-term sustainable action, and having a bit of regularity helps us to stay focused better, especially when you're tackling with a difficult subject. If you just try to set aside a specific time in your schedule every week to study specifically for that subject, then gradually you will form a habit and your mindset can also be adjusted. I remember when I was in high school, my math at first wasn't very good. So what I did was every morning I would set aside 1 hour from 6 to 7 just before school started, right? From 6 to 7 specifically for mathematics. That way I found that every morning when I woke up, I knew that I was driven to solve the math questions, and mentally I was more prepared to embrace the challenges. Tip number 3 is to have a specific goal for each studying period. What I mean by goal is not something like this is the assignment I have to complete, or this is the exercise book I have to go through. That is not your goal. That is the task you have to finish. Your goal should be related to something about understanding. For example, for this 20 minutes, I have to understand the Second World War and why it started in the first place. That is your goal, right? My cat is playing with the paper box. It's different from, oh, I have to finish my assignment. So if you don't think about the actual task you have to complete, but instead think about the gains in terms of intellectual gains, then you will find yourself able to then you will find you can progress much faster and you will know exactly what you're doing. Tip 4 is to start with the most difficult subject because strategically it is the best thing to do to boost your energy or motivation. Usually our energy level peaks 1 hour or half an hour after we wake up every day. Our mind is refreshed, our body awakened, and we're ready to embrace the new day. And you can tackle the problems with the best attention that you can give. If you always plan the most difficult thing or your weakest subject to be the last task, then you will find you will be very reluctant and even demotivated to face them because it's already, 5 hours after studying and you still have to face the subject you hate most. How tiring, how exhausting that is, right? So always start something that you hate most and plan it at a regular time. So I feel this habit, this strategy can be combined with the first and the second one. Don't force yourself to study for 5 hours the subject you hate most because that's not strategic. That's not the best thing for your mind or for your body. Tip number 5 is to do your revision before you do your assignment. I know a lot of us are very pragmatic, right? We want to finish our tasks so that we can move on and we can enjoy ourselves. But then in terms of studying effectiveness or efficiency, it's not the best thing to do because if you do not understand the subject or the knowledge very well and then you just jump right into the questions, the whole process will be very slow and it doesn't really help with your understanding. So when I was a student, I always started my studying session with revision. For example, later if my task is to do my math homework, then I will start with some revision first, right? I'll try to look at the notes I took in class and try to look at my previous assignments to see the mistakes I've made and where I went wrong. And then I'll move on to my assignment. This way I could really feel that I have a better grasp of the things being taught and I can also see my progress and discern my weaknesses and see where I tended to make mistakes. And I'll use the same strategy for history, for geography and Chinese and English. I will always start with revision. So I think in the long run, doing revision regularly and more often is more conducive to improvement than, say, doing tons of exercises. I'm more like a person who is more reflective and introspective, so I would like to reflect upon what I've done well in the past and my weaknesses, and then I try to see what things I should consolidate before I go into the exercise part. Actually, I don't know why I should do this in English. I just feel like, talking in English because I've said basically the same thing to my students at school and because I teach them in English, right? So I feel it's more comfortable for me to discuss this topic with you guys in English. But of course, I hope you could also pick up a few phrases you could use in your spoken English, right? Because the English I'm using right now is just, very everyday and very common and also very conversational, I would say. Okay, so these are the 5 tips I really want to share with you guys. I feel that they've really helped me a lot when I was a student, and my students have also told me that they also find these skills quite helpful. So that's all for today's video. I'll see you next time. Bye!